Go ahead.
and interview Nena, and then she will ask me some questions. So this is off the cuff, guys, so please bear with us. All right, Nena.
Yes.
So Strange Women was a resounding success. And I say this, I don't say this lightly. It has had an impact on women in Kenya, in the U.S., in Nigeria, and in other parts of the world. What has the journey been like? What was it like to see your work, your words impact so many women in so little time? I mean, can you compare that to like having a blog where people wrote in as opposed to having a published book and seeing, you know, why don't I let you tell us, you know, how it's been or what has transpired since you published?
Okay. Well, I guess the main difference has been, well, first of all, it's been, of course, you know, really humbling. And the main difference between having a blog and having a book, as you can imagine, is that, especially having a blog where you're sort of an anonymous blogger, is that, you know, you get to meet the people that actually read your work. Mm-hmm. It's not just about their comments, but you meet people in person, and you have conversations with them, and so on and so forth. So blogging was really great, and I think that, you know, having a book is even, you know, more fulfilling in some ways. And your question was, how has the journey been so far?
Yes. Can you take us step by step? Because some of us have followed your journey on social media, but some are not, you know, are not really into social media, and they don't know what you've been up to.
That's true.
And it's been quite busy since you published. So
yeah, and I've been really quiet on social media for a while. I hope that I expect it to pick up again, you know, in the next month or so. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in February this year, the book was finally launched. So I hadn't launched it all this while, even though it was published in 2015. I really didn't know how to do a launch, how to conceptualize it, so on and so forth. And so I partnered with a magazine called True Love East Africa in Kenya to have,
which is a big deal, guys. It
is
Google
a big
them,
deal.
Yeah.
True Love East Africa, just for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure there's a True Love West Africa, but True Love East Africa is a top-selling women's magazine in the East Africa region. So it's really well known. It's in every hair salon, every bookstore, every grocery store, every so on and so forth. And so not only did they do a feature on the book in the magazine in February, right?
It was a Valentine's Day issue.
Right, it was a Valentine's Day issue. But they also worked with me to conceptualize the book launch, and we launched it February 28th. It was a wonderful, an intimate, you know, kind of occasion. The target was media people, in order to kind of generate some more buzz around the book.
And if I can interject,
please.
The photos and a little clip of the video is on my website, actually my Facebook page, Story She Wrote, okay? And also it will be up on storysherewrote.com as well. So if you wanted to see some of the wonderful pictures that were up there that happened that day.
Right, wonderful pictures and a nice, you know, little video.
Yes.
Which I need to give you a copy. Mm-hmm. So the whole goal was to generate media buzz, and so that happened. So the book and the launch featured in the major dailies, some of the minor dailies as well, in Kenya. And that media attention is leading to a series of interviews, which should begin in the month of June. In addition to that, the book launch and just the noise about the book has given rise to a number of speaking engagements for, you know, all kinds of different people who are trying to work with women in some way, whether it's about, you know, working with women to help keep their marriages strong, or working with women to, you know, help them overcome a divorce or whatnot, a separation. So those kinds of opportunities are coming up, in addition to probably doing a little bit of writing for a women's magazine, which is something I'm seriously considering, as I've received an offer. So it's been pretty interesting.
It's been busy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It has been busy.
Mm-hmm.
Could be busier if I didn't have a full-time job.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So okay. All right. let me ask another question, a follow-up question. And this is a big one, guys. I am really interested to hear her answer. Okay, the Nena and Ndioma that wrote the book or published the book in 2015, and the Nena and Ndioma post-publication 2017, how is that? How have you changed as a person and as a writer?
Well, maybe I should start from 2012 when the book was actually written, right? Even though the book was published in 2015. Most of what a reader would see in the book was actually written in 2012. And that was when my emotions were still very raw and so on and so forth. And that gave rise to a lot of the writing. And now here I am in 2017. This is 5 years later. There has been a change because there has been healing, right? So the book was born out of the need to sort of heal and get past this, catastrophic event in my life. And here I am on the other side, feeling, really healed and so on and so forth. And I find that I have to work to make sure that I don't completely forget what it was like, to be in that sort of broken phase of life, because I'm meeting all sorts of women, right? And quite a number of them have just experienced divorce, and it's new, it's fresh, it's less than a year. It's been less than a year, and they are at that phase where they're extremely emotional, right? And what I've realized is that I need to work in order not to forget what it was like to be in that place, so that I can always relate to them and be helpful, really. I think that's what the main difference has been, is sort of like, try not to come across as flippant, is what I always tell myself, because when you're doing well and you're healed and you've moved on, I think you can come across that way, sort of flippant and, why are you all sad, and, so I have to sort of make sure that I'm not giving that kind of impression that, what you're going through right now is really easy to get over. It's not, it really isn't. So I think that's the difference. The main difference.
So how do you think, it would be a struggle to remain relatable in your writing, seeing as you've healed, because the people who were attracted to your work, to Stranger, and they came for a reason,
right?
They could relate to what you were going through. So now that you've healed, and let's see your next work, what do you think? I mean, how do you think you overcome the challenge, if indeed it is a challenge, to remain relatable? Or do you think your fan base will shift from women who are going through to women who are fully healed like yourself?
Right, good question. I mean, first of all, I do think it will be a challenge. But, it's a challenge that I'm willing to take on. I don't think it would be authentic for me to try and pretend that I'm at a particular phase, which I've already gone past, right? At the same time, I think that with care, it shouldn't make me any less relatable, because everyone hopefully, moves along, along this continuum along their journey, right? And so they'll eventually get to the phase I'm at right now. And I think that writing about perhaps the phase that I'm at right now, and I'm not saying that that's what I'll do necessarily, but it's a possibility. I think that that's something that, people need to hear as well. It's sort of like, okay, I'm in this phase and everything seems really horrible, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, and things will improve, and this book is proof, so yeah, I think my writing will change, and I think that that's okay.
Not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that, in summary, that you're growing, and hopefully you're still growing, or you're still on this journey, and hopefully your audience, your fan base will, go along with you, and and maybe even if they're not there yet, it could be like some kind of a guidebook, or a woman's perspective on the journey ahead.
I mean, so you can only hope that I mean, our individual journeys never end. And I think that one of the things that I have, seriously considered doing, and that I should have done by now, actually, is to do exactly what you've talked about, write some sort of workbook around the book Strange Women, because many of the women I talk to talk about how they've read the book more than once. And so first of all, they sort of just read, and then the next time they read and underline stuff and make notes, and so I feel like there should be some sort of reading guide, or guide to help women unpack the different chapters, and or to have discussion groups. A lot of women I know as well tend to read this as part of their book clubs. So I think there's potential to still do something more around Strange Women, but also potential to write about other things, still related to divorce, because I do think that we don't talk about it or read about it enough, right? But just about divorce from the perspective of a person who is now sort of healed.
Okay.
So over to you now. I mean, questions for you now about your journey so far as well. You're a prolific writer, and you started out by reading The Perfect Girl, The Prostitute, and other stories, and you have quickly followed that up with a new piece of work.
Yeah.
Can you tell us in a nutshell what the new piece of work is about? What's it called and what's it about?
Yeah, it's called Falling Into Happy.
Falling into Happy.
Okay. And it's out on Kindle, and it's really just about relationships, and it's about this one woman. It's centered around this one woman, Chiaka, who is at a point in her life, and I think a lot of us get there, where she is in an unfulfilling relationship, marriage, but she does not. I don't think she even fully recognizes it. To her, it's just the status quo is the way things are, until she, takes a writing class and meets someone who she thinks is her soulmate, or who at least she connects with, and is a kind of escape from the hell that she's going through at home. And it's just about her journey, and it's about what happiness means to her, So it's not, I don't think it's cookie cutter. And I think it's a delicious and easy read. Yeah.
But the interesting thing about it, and I have read the book on Kindle. If you haven't, you really should go get yourself a copy. Falling Into Happy by C.C. Adetula. The surprising thing about it, which you all will find, is that it's not a collection of short stories, unlike her first book, The Perfect Girl. So it's not a collection of short stories, and it's a very different, it's a novel, but a very different kind of storytelling from what I saw in A Perfect Girl. And I wondered whether there was a reason for that shift in your writing. Did you have a particular reason? And what kind of reception is this getting, given that it's a kind of different genre?
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Okay, these are two questions. I'll handle them separately. Okay, the shift. Interestingly enough, this Falling Into Happy was written before The Perfect Girl. Well, actually, no. Well, some stories in The Perfect Girl were written before this, but I initially intended to have my debut work be a novel, and it was going to be this Falling Into Happy. But then you actually encouraged me. You're like, well, since you have these short stories that you've written in writing class, I think you should publish them. So I was like, okay, let me publish them, and then be working on my novel, and then publish my novel later. And so what I did with The Perfect Girl, I just wrote, I had like about 7 maybe from writing class, and I wrote maybe 7 more later. So this had always been a work in progress, my work in progress. And it was initially supposed to be my first. I never considered myself a short story writer. But I will say the reception is really, really strange. Most people who read The Perfect Girl told me when they read it that they were not into short stories, that they never really read short. They only read it, they're like, okay, let's read it. And then they fell in love with it. They're like, wow, I really enjoy short stories. So people, including yourself and my editor, prefer The Perfect Girl. but I would say the majority